Hi there, welcome to Floating in Dreams. In today's video, we are going to be reviewing these 4 new eyeshadow palettes by Catrice. The Dusty Mattes, the Pure Nude, the Electric Rose, and the Hot Mocca. In case you're new here, hi, my name is Maaike. I live in the Netherlands. I like to come on here to chat about eyeshadow palettes, SSN Catrice reviews, and getting the use out of my makeup. And every single time that SSN Catrice come out with their new, seasonal lines, I tend to update you on the products there are, but I also do some follow-up reviews after my first impression on all of the products that I want to review, either on the blog and sometimes also as a video format. And I figured that when I saw these 4 palettes by them, I was like, I need to film a video with that. So we're gonna do a video where I'm gonna try each of these palettes, try as many shades as I can, and apply them to the eyes to see how these perform. This is the first time I will be using them, so I'm gonna discover along with you how good these are. And if this is your first time here, then it's good to know that I have fair skin with a cool to neutral undertone, which means it greatly skews my makeup preferences. I tend to have slightly different makeup preferences for most people, and I know what I like because I've been doing this for more than a decade. So if you'd like to stay tuned for more and join the Snow Angel family, then definitely click subscribe down below. So the way I'd like to organize today's video is to have chapters for each video here, so you can watch whichever palette you are most interested in. And I'll also be showing you how I just take off my eye look without having to take off the rest of my makeup, so I can switch between the different palettes as we're moving along. So let me kick us off with the first palette here. This is the Dusty Mattes, and this is the first one I want to use because this doesn't have any shimmers. So I'm predicting that if I were to take this off, it's going to be the least messy. And in here, we get a pretty cool toned color story. I was surprised to see them do this, because very often when Catrice does pretty basic things, it tends to be more warm toned, but no, this time round, we actually have some cool tones in here. So let me do a live swatch as well. You will have already seen an overlay here of the swatches I did initially, and just swatch this one, maybe the pink, and yeah, let's do this black, which is it a black? It's more like a charcoal gray, but that's what we've got going on here. So if we swatch that, then, I mean, is this the best eyeshadow ever? No, but I'm pretty impressed because in recent years, Catrice's little palettes like this, they have had palettes like this in their line for more than a decade. But the quality has always been a little wishy-washy, so that's why I hadn't tried any of these in a while. I have reviews up with some of the OG color stories that they used to do, so I can link a couple of those down below in case you're interested. But yeah, I thought I could do a look with each one of these to show you what this has got going on. So I think this might appeal actually to a lot of people. If you don't love shimmers, I think this is nice. So I'm first going to take the light pink shade here with a MAC 217. So I'm just gonna do something really quick and easy with all of these. I don't want to do anything too fancy. Not because I don't want to do anything too fancy, but I do have to film 4 looks for you today, which, you know, is a little bit more. And I want to make sure that these are really accessible eye looks as well. So I'm just popping this in the crease. This blends easily, but not in a way where I'm like, ooh, this blends away into nothing. You can definitely see that color. Ooh, and this is quite rosy. I mean, it's a bit more warm tone, perhaps, than I would expect. And so what I like to do, I start always by really putting it in the crease, and then I like to go more so on the outer edge with the color, so that when my eye is open, you can actually see a bit more. I'm taking a Zoeva Luxe Define Crease Brush, the 224, and I'm just going to run that along the edge to make sure there are no harsh edges. And you can see where that brush goes. I'm practically in my brow, and on camera this doesn't show up, but in real life there's color all the way up here, which I know you can never see, but I actually bring my eyeshadow up way high, but I do so in a very diffused way, because if the eyeshadow is very harsh here, it just looks like I was punched in the face. So and now, just because I want to see what these deeper shades actually are capable of, is I'm going to take the charcoal, darker gray shade this has, and pop it in the outer corner. And I'm using a Sonia Kashuk. Is this a 103? No, this is the 106. I kind of bring it out a little bit. And I'm just going to go back in with my MAC 217 and sort of, and then with this taupey shade, I'm going to cover the rest of the lid with a Sigma E55. Take a little bit more, but like right on the edge of your brush, and then I flip the brush around and actually put the color up into the crease, because else it just looks a little weird. I'm gonna take the deeper taupey shade and use my Sephora smudger brush to smudge this along the lower lash line. And then with a Sigma E20, I'm gonna take that lighter gray shade. I'm just gonna use as many shades as I possibly can today. And I'm going to finish off the lower lash line. And with a pencil brush, I'm going to take that brightest shade. It doesn't seem to be fully matte. It seems to have a bit of shine. I'm just going to pop that in the inner corner. I'm going to take my Sonia Kashuk 203 and that shade right there and sort of clean up the brow bone with that. On a little angle brush, I'm taking that black shade to pop it on as a liner. And I just realized I hadn't popped a lip on yet, so we're gonna add Tower 28. And that is our finished look with the Dusty Matte. And I managed to use every single shade in this palette. I think it's really nicely cool toned if you leave out the pink. The pink is what brings in the warmth, but I like it. I don't hate this. Like, I'm not a huge fan of matte eyeshadows, but these are nice. They are very soft and powdery, so they make for a lot of kick up in your pan. So for instance, if I just take my MAC 217 here again and I put it in here, like, you can just see what that does to the pan. And then I need to turn the palette around. If you see that dust? Wow. So you need to make sure that you really tap up the excess, because else you will get fall down. I don't have any fallout right now because I managed to, stamp it on before blending and also tapping off my brush. So that's why there is no other fallout. I think this is a successful look. The darker shades are definitely dark enough to give you definition. With some of these Catrice palettes I've had in the past, they would dust away into nothing. But also that gray shade on the outer edge, like, you can really see that there's a little bit of a gradient there. I would have preferred there to at least have one shimmer, because I just prefer a shimmer on the lid. That's just me. But if you're looking for a more cool toned leaning matte color story for like under €5 at the drugstore, then I think you might be interested in this. So now we need to take this off so we can start using the next palette. And what I like to do is take a cotton round, bit of micellar water. And this is why I didn't put on waterproof mascara just yet, because that doesn't work. And then I'm just gonna like gently wipe at what I just did and just take it off like that. It's okay if this gets messy. Like, I just try to not like wipe it across my entire eye, because that will irritate my eyes, plus it will ruin the rest of my makeup. So I just try to go wherever I've put on the eyeshadow. And then this is probably going to look really freaky, but I like to like sort of take a bit of the cotton round and like blink on top of it to get the mascara off. And then I just wiggle it up to gently remove the mascara. There's always going to be a little bit smudging again on the lower lash line, which you can then take off. And that way you can just take everything off. And now we're left with this, which it looks, I've got an eye disease. So I'm taking a tissue and I'm going to pat dry the area where I took off the makeup. I'm just going to take my concealer that I used earlier. This is the Apieu one, which is in my Shop My Stash. I'm just a little dot. You don't need a lot, because you're only going to be covering up the under eye again. So you're going to take your concealer brush and you're just going to fix your makeup. And I like to sort of wiggle things around so that it blends in again. And this is why I try to be very careful when I take it down, so that I don't take off any of the highlighter. And then I'm just taking my MAC Paint Pot and Paisley again, because my lid is now completely dry from the cleanser and the patting motion. I could just go on top and this will not crease throughout the day because you've taken care of your lid not being super oily. I'm just going to set it. And now you've fixed your eye area into place and you can move on to the next palette. So the next palette I want to chat about is the Pure Nude eyeshadow palette. And this one is the more neutral one, but again, quite cool toned. We just have this like gold that makes it more like warm leaning, maybe the bronzy shade that we get here, but everything else is quite neutral, cool leaning. So I'm pretty curious what this will do. Let's give a swatch. Here we get 1, 2, 3, 4 mattes and 4 shimmers. So let me do, like this taupey shimmer is really screaming my name. So that one, and then this like taupey matte, which we're of course going to use, and then the 2 deeper shades. So these 2 I'm swatching as well for you, and then those are the ones right there. So light, yes, but I think there is enough definition. And then this, like the shimmer I swatched first, seems to have a bit of a rosy undertone almost, and also that taupey matte. It's almost like more mauve leaning. So I'm just going to start the look off using this shade in the crease. And before we do that, let's take the rosy shade of the MAC 217 with a color switch. This is from Catrice. This was in one of their like brush cleansing pot, which if you don't have one of these, I'm pretty sure that if you buy a piece of foam from a craft store or a DIY store, you can make this yourself. You don't need a makeup version of it, but it's really helpful for taking powder off of eyeshadow brushes and then you can quickly go between looks. So if you don't have one of those things, then I would highly recommend. So I'm taking this, and we're just doing the same thing we did with the other look, because this is what I do with every look I do. I just go and sort of start in the outer corner, like tapping it on first before sort of pushing it into the crease. This, I can already tell, I like it. So it's light, but it does add definition. Let me see if I can add a little bit more here so you can see it a bit better on camera. So I'm just taking up the eyeshadow a little higher than I normally would today, so you can actually see what I'm doing. I think ooh, I like that shade. Now this palette does have this like lighter, like blending shade. So let me take my Zoeva palette again. So I do this a lot just to make sure nothing is too stark or harsh. So I was saying how I wanted to make this a bit more like glammed up. So I'm gonna take the deepest shade here, which is not that deep, but it's still nice. And I'm gonna take a petite crease brush from Zoeva. And again, just dabbing the brush in, you get a decent amount, tapping off the excess, and then I'm just gonna draw a like a diagonal line across the lid, starting a little bit further than where my lash line actually stops, to create a little bit of like a cat eye shape. And then I go sort of just outside of where my crease ends, and I will push that shade, whatever's left on my brush, I will push it against like my brow bone, because this is where my brow is, right? My brow bone is already. This is why I sometimes don't call it hooded eyes, but deep set eyes, because I have this little ledge here. So I will push the shadow against it and then just bring that all the way in and maybe bring it out just a little bit. Maybe need a little bit more on the tip of the brush just to define that outer edge. And then just sort of like draw it up and then bringing it back across. And you just get a really nice, super easy cat eye shape. And then what I like to do is sort of fill in this entire outer corner with that darker shadow. And it looks really messy right now, but when you close your eyes, you have this like elongated cat eye shape. The reason why I love this brush so much for this is because it applies and blends at the same time. So this is already nicely diffused because this brush is already a little bit bigger. And then I just want to apply a lid shade. So I'm going to go in with this lighter shade here, Sigma E55 again. Hold on. Still something on from the previous round, so need to take that off. And then we'll see what it does. Ooh. And then just because this isn't the most intense shimmer, we're using a bit of the finger action just to intensify it. And here you can be really messy because we already have the shape, so you can just apply the, and I actually like to like do it like this, like close my eye and just dab some of that color like in that fold so that it really nicely diffuses into the crease as well. Now I feel I've always lost a little bit of that intensity in the outer V, so I go back in with my Zoeva Petite Crease, a bit of the darker shade, and I just again do that diagonal line a little bit just to bring it back. Take a bit more of my crease shade, blend that a bit more as well, and then I just repeat the whole thing just to make sure that everything is blended. So now the top lash is done, and just because I think that this shade by itself, that bronzy shimmer, will be pretty on the lower lash line, I'm just taking that smudger brush that I've had for, I think this is like a 12-year-old brush from Sephora. The name has rubbed off, but this was the smudger brush. And then with my Sigma pencil brush, I believe this is called the E30. Again, the name has worn off, that's how long I've had it. But I'm just taking that lightest champagne shade. And that's what we're popping in the inner corner. So that is the look I did with the Catrice, the Pure Nude. And I think that this, for this like bronzy brown, but more cool tone, it definitely has a level of cool tone to it, which I love. I just really like the way this came together. I mean, it's super duper basic, but at the same time, this is really, like, you can take this in so many different directions. Because I think if you were to just take that shade and just like pop one of these like lighter shimmers on the lid and just this, you have a perfect workday look, but you can glam it up if you use these deeper shades. And I think that that makes for a more versatile option than the matte one for me, for sure. So this is definitely very promising, I have to say. And I think the only shade I didn't use, the only two shades I didn't use here this time were these two in the middle, but you know, it's that gold shimmer, which, you know, if you like that kind of thing, fine. And then this, I was thinking at first that maybe I had to use it to deepen up the crease, but I felt that this shade was doing enough for me by itself. So just this shade by itself is what's going on in the crease, and I think this is really, really pretty. Taken off the eye look, fixed the eye like I just showed you, and we're moving into the Electric Rose. Now, the next two palettes I feel have a bit of a warmer undertone, and they also seem to have more depth to them than the other two, but now that I'm scrutinizing this Electric Rose palette again, I'm not entirely sure. We just get the three shimmers, this one, and this lighter shimmer. This one, the way it looks in the pan really reminds me of this dirty lilac shade that we get in the Violette Étendue by Viseart. It definitely has that sort of vibe to it. If it's as vibrant, we'll find out when we use it on the eyes. And then we have 5 mattes, but 3 of those are pretty much the same. Like, what's up with these two? And this, like, I think that giving us like this in more saturation might have made this palette more successful. This shade I feel is darker than the shade in the Dusty Matte, and it also seems to have a different undertone. So let me hold these together, like if we do it like this. Do you just see that this has a bit more gray and this seems to be a bit more peachy, which is why I'm thinking this is more like a warmer rosy tone rather than a cooler rosy tone. And that's why I think this is going to perform as a more warm-toned rose look. What I think I want to do is to use this all over the lid and into the crease to give us a bit of a base for some of these shimmers to play off on. I think that will be pretty. So I'm using a Real Techniques base shadow brush. Oh, this is a little less powdery, it seems. Oh, no, it has just as much dust as the other shade. So I'm just going to pack this all over the lid. And this is a very like fluffy brush, so it's not going to do a lot of packing, but that's why I like it for this purpose, like to use a matte as like a base coat and then just moving it all the way up. Oh, this actually, like, it blends into my skin tone a lot better than the one in the Dusty Mattes, probably because it has that peachy tone. So this on me pulls less dark, and a lot, because it has the peachy undertone, it pulls more pink on me. And I feel on me, it looks like it's got a cooler undertone than the other one. And that I think it has to do with the fact that I have a more neutral undertone in my base. Meaning I can get away with both warm tones as well as cool tones. And then sometimes if something is a little bit more peachy, I feel it blends into my skin tone a lot better than if it didn't. So now I just want to pop this shimmer all over the lid because I'm savage. Is this picking up? Ooh, it is. Like, it looked on the brush as if there was nothing there. And again, this looked so much more warm tone than the pan, but now that I put it on, let me use my finger so you can really see this. Like, these do need fingers to go on, like, as shiny as you'd like them to be. But they can be built up to that, you know? You don't have to commit to this something this shiny. But that's very pretty. And just for good measure, I hope that this is a lot brighter and that if I pop it, is it going to work? Like, if I pop it in the middle of my lid, that it's going to change the quality of the shadow. I mean, in real life, I can definitely see it. I don't feel it pops up in the viewfinder. To use this as well in the inner corner so we can see what it does by itself. Like, it looks a lot lighter in the pen than it does compared to this, but I feel it's actually pretty close once you put them on the eyes. But I now want to use my Spectrum A12 and use that same shade that we were using in the inner corner, and I'm going to extend my inner corner. So I'm going to start here and I'm going to push this along like the line of my crease. And because I have deep set eyes, you can just see I have this natural curve here. So that's what I'm just following to sort of push this inner corner highlight up so that we get a little bit more of that and it really catches the light. And then I also like to take this a little bit like more so along the lower lash lines. Now, I just want to use that dark brown just to see if it's dark enough to deepen things up. And to test that out, I'm going to take it on an angled brush. Just take a little bit, tap it off, and now I'm going to do that, like, is it the siren eye? Like going straight out of your inner corner and just drawing it across. And this is great if you have hooded eyes and you feel you can't wear a cat eye, because if I want to make a cat eye, I need to pretty much go all the way to the bottom of my brow and then go across, and then I lose half of my eye look. But this way, I can bring it out a little bit further, and then if I want to connect it, I can just drag it across my lid. Take that same shade on our trusty smudger brush and connect it. And now, just to finish off the bottom lash line, I'm taking my Sigma E20 again and that rosy shade that we used all over the lid, and I'm just going to connect the inner corner to that lower lash line shade. And that is what my look with the electric rose looks like. I think this is actually a bit of a surprise to me. I had expected this to be just a lot more warm toned on me, but it's like peachy pink and it works really well on my complexion. I think out of everything we've used so far, this is like a really good everyday palette for me where I can just use this, and I think you can do some really creative things with it. The dark brown is dark enough to use as a bit of liner here, which I like because my eyes are watering because this is like the second time I took off my makeup. The outer edge is already fading though, so that's something you need to be careful with if you're just doing this with like eyeliner, but I think this is a very successful eyeliner look for me. And this way, I think the shades play well together. I just would have liked this to be deeper and then this to be even deeper as well. So if this shade, like if this undertone, because this is a bit cooler than this is a bit more warm toned, if this undertone was like more saturated, deeper, and then this had been a really nice cool tone chocolate brown, I would have liked this better. This is not perfect, but I do really like the look that came out. I'm all this I love this. This is my favorite look so far. Last but not least, the last time that I've taken off an eye look, because this is what I'm going to be wearing for the rest of the day, we're going to be talking about the Hot Mocca. And this is a a bit of a spicier option. I love how we're getting this like bronzy shimmer in here that seems to have a bit of a reddish undertone. We get another gold, which is a bit of a stronger gold, like more of a browny orange tone. But we do get quite light shades again here. I wish that we just got some better crease options. That's what I'm trying to say with these. I think that now that I've used those other three as well, I feel that every single one of these palettes just has like these two really light shades that nobody needs in their lives, and then a very light transition and something deeper. I wish we just got a bit more depth. I think that that's what these palettes need. Here we do again get the 50-50 split of 1, 2, 3, 4 mattes. Everything else has shimmer. Do a live swatch. I do want to swatch that matte orange for you, and like these three, and then it looks like this. So those are pretty, and I think indeed there's enough of a difference between these two that I could use them as a halo eyes. So I think what I want to do is just mix these two shades so that we get a nice dark crease, so that we really have something to play it off with. So a bit like dook, 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 dook. And then just apply that to the crease, because I don't want this to be too orange. So now I'm just taking a bit of that orangey shade with my Zoeva Looks Defined crease brush just to add a bit of warmth. So, and then we have that going on in the crease, nicely diffused. So I've decided this is going to be a reverse halo and not just a halo. So I'm going to take my trusty Sonia Kashuk brush, and I'm going to use this lighter bronzy shade on the outer V. And this is why I didn't want my crease to be super duper dark, because else it would just deflect from this shade. And I'm just going to dab it here as well as in the inner corner, and I'm just going to leave a little bit of skin visible in the middle right there, because that's, and then we're going to intensify those shades with a bit of finger action. Now I'm going to take my Sigma E57, and I'm going to use that darker bronzy brown shade, and I'm going to use that in the middle of the lid to intensify that shade. So like with the rosy palette, I feel the contrast between, like, these look so much more like contrasting in the pan than they do once they apply to the lid, but that's why, you know, this is a halo eye without it being a super duper intense halo. Accent brush from Real Techniques. I'm just going to take this super duper highlightery shade, and I'm going to pop it just over like my pupil, right in the center of the lid. So these shades aren't super duper intense when you use fingers, so I want to see what happens if we wet it. So I've got a bit of MAC Fix Plus, and I had loaded my brush on both sides with the color. Oh yeah, when you spray it down, it definitely intensifies. This is not laziness, but I feel I can never get a halo to look nice on my lower lash line, so I'm going to take that other shimmer we used on my trusty Sephora smudger brush and use it along the lower lash line. The hair is down, and I finished creating the look with the Hot Mocca palette. So let me quickly go over each one of these eyeshadow palettes. So the Dusty Mattes isn't one that I personally need. This is workable for sure, but I feel some of the undertones in the palette don't really go together. This pink pulls a lot more warm toned on me than any of the other shades. I wish this had a different undertone because it's just a lot warmer than anything else, and I want at least one shimmer. Like, give me a shimmer for the lid, because else it just doesn't look really great with my eye shape. But if you just need something really basic and you love a overall more cool tone palette, then this can be nice. The Pure Nude was next, and I think this is one of my favorites of this set because I really like the look that I was able to create with it. It leans more cool toned, which I love. It's more, I would say, neutral smack in the middle because we get a mix of both warm and cool, but on my fair skin I felt this looked really nice. It looked a little bit more glammed up, but I think you can also get some more everyday shades out of it, like everyday looks out of it. So I think this is one of the more versatile ones, and I really liked how the look came together. When I was taking it off, I was like, why am I taking you off? I really like you. So yeah, that's a good sign. This is definitely one of my 2 favorites here. The other favorite here is the Electric Rose. This was the biggest surprise to me because just looking at this in the pan, I had expected this to look a lot more warm tone on me. Granted, it is very, very light. So if you have very fair skin and you have a warmer undertone, I think you're gonna like this. However, if you have fair skin and you have a super cool undertone, I don't think you will like it because I think it's going to be a little bit too contrasty. And if you have any skin tone that is deeper than mine, I don't think you will like it because we don't get enough shades to deepen things up unless you use like a very light white base or something. But for me, this was like a really pretty look. Another one where I was like, as I was removing it, I was like, why? Why am I taking you off? But in the Hot Mocca, I like this. We do get a little bit more depth here, but as you can see, nothing is too deep. So as with a lot of Catrice palettes, I have to again tell them, put some good dark shades in because it's just, from that perspective, it's a bit lackluster. Do I like this look though? Yes. But I think you can see what I mean, what happens like if I wear a super warmy, like more spicy look. I can get away with it because I have brown hair and my hair color goes with it quite well. But if I like take my hair out of the equation, like this, I just feel it clashes a little bit too much with my skin tone. So that's why I'm like, not entirely sure. Can I get away with this? Does this look pretty? Oh yes, but it's not my favorite. Like this, I think just goes a bit better if you have lighter skin with a warm undertone. I think you might actually like this quite a bit, but you just want this to be like super basic. I think the 2 that are the most like unique are these 2. However, nothing in here color story wise is super revolutionary. The mattes are pretty dusty and powdery, so you could see in the video hopefully that they can be built up and that they can be deepened up if you keep layering them, which I like. The shimmers with a brush are very lackluster. They need a finger or a bit of setting spray for them to really pop. So that's perhaps good to know. But yeah, these are nice shadows. For the price point, I think these are good. And I'm glad that they're doing something that isn't just going to dust away. And now I just need to see how this wears. So I will update you on that in my eyeshadow palette review that I will be posting later this month. And also next month, you can expect me to do a Roundup review after trying all of the new Essence and Catrice products and doing like a quick overview of these again. So I will keep you updated on that to see how this wears. But this was just like a quick little review. I hope you appreciated me seeing, like, doing 4 different types of looks that I sometimes like doing on myself at the same time. So you got a bit of a tutorial there too. So I really hope you enjoyed watching today's video. Please thumbs up the video if you liked it. Subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more by me. I make regular Essence and Catrice content at least once or twice a month. So if you'd like to stay tuned for that, and I hope to see you in my next one. Take care, everybody. Have a good day. Bye-bye.